So before I get into today's video, I would like to thank Carl Jung, although he is dead, for his essay on the origin of the hero and on the deliverance from the mother. Because these essays have influenced what I'm about to say now, which I think this is a thing people are aware of, if not consciously, then unconsciously, but I'd like to say it anyway. Okay, so if you're a Christian, you'll be familiar with the story of Jesus carrying his cross to the crucifixion. You'll have heard the story so many times. In particular, you'll have heard it at Easter. You do the Stations of the Cross, for example. And bypassing the crucifixion itself, let's just focus on what it means to carry a cross. Because if we look at symbolism, and I know that people who aren't into psychology, they take and are Christian, take they take this story very seriously. So they would maintain this really happened, and they get very caught up in the ins and outs. But I'm proposing now to have a more open mind and look at the story symbolically, which is to say, irrespective of whether it really happened or not. Because in a sense it is a generic story, as Jung points out, because, for example, Heracles carried his pillars to Cyrene, which is the same Cyrene as the Cyrene Simon was from, who was the one who helped Jesus carry his cross. So already you see all of these overlaps between the Greek stories and the Bible stories, which isn't to discredit the factual events of what did happen, but definitely feeds into a more helpful understanding of the story, which is a symbolic understanding. Okay, so what's the symbolic significance of a cross? If you look at a cross, or even really consider the word cross, what do you think of? What comes to mind? It's a serious question. When I think of cross myself, I think of someone being upset, if it's someone external to me, someone being upset with me, like a mother being cross. But you could also cross someone, which is to say two different approaches, like if you cross paths. I mean, it's such a simple thing. You cross paths, or you could cross someone in the sense of you have two opposing or two desires which are really going in two directions, and you happen to stumble into each other and get in each other's way. That's another way to cross someone. Or betray them. That's another way to cross someone. And I think the symbolism of betrayal is important here, because it's not exactly betrayal, but look at what's happening in the cross. And I'm just going to get, for illustrative purposes, a pen and a pencil. That's what it looks like. If you've ever used Desmos, an online graphing calculator, or how even just drawn any kind of graph like this with two lines, they meet at a single point, but they are hopelessly going in two different directions. What does that mean? I mean, we've kind of gone over it, I would say, just from the symbolism. At least this is how it appears to me. There is a tension of desire which is irresolvable, so it forms a cross. Yet there is a point of intersection. Now that point of intersection, and I've just had this flash now, is very important, because the point of intersection is what allows the load to be carried in a uniform way. It's what allows the whole cross to become, because if it was just one desire, it's a straight path. If it was this other desire, it's a straight path as well, but going in a different direction. But reconciling them, you have to pick them up and carry them as one unit, because you can't keep going this way, because it will resist with this pen, with this desire. You see what I'm trying to say? In other words, and I think it's because I had some of this planned already in my mind, but this is why picking up the cross is so important, because you cannot carry a single load, you have to carry both. And that means giving up this direction and that direction and going in this direction. So I'll try and do that again. You're not going this way, you can't go this way, because this will stay behind and then this will get irritated, the point of connection. You can't go that way, but you can go this way. You got to change the angle of your thinking. And Jesus did that. And specifically the tension we're talking about, which is a tension of desire, which I suppose it can seem quite nebulous, but really it's any time, and I think it's a male thing, I'm going to be honest, I think it's more of a male issue. And you even see that in the heroes depicted, such as Heracles and Jesus. Because I think it's not that women can't necessarily have that, or I wouldn't even say women, it's not that femininity can't experience that. However, I think it's a more masculine thing to have such an inattention and a prolonged suffering because of that inattention. Which I suppose it's a moral battle with yourself. You're having a moral battle with yourself. Because you have a drive which is going that way, and another drive which is equally real, which is going that way, and you have no way to reconcile the two. A nice practical example is, which I think is pertinent, and I've experienced this in my own life, is the drive between being this kind of polygamous, just like sex demon, this like Genghis Khan, and at the same time being someone like Simba's father from The Lion King, who's basically a heroic father who has this commitment and this kingdom and wouldn't necessarily mess around with women like that, because he would have his family and that would come first. Or just in general, any kind of family man, that's the kind of opposite. These are the two sides. And these are two very real desires, because when you settle down with a family, obviously, and I got this from Jordan Peterson, it stops being about you. So you don't have the leisure to go around and, for example, sleep around, because it's not good for your kids, it's not good for your next generation, and it's not good for the spirit of the family, which to me is an important thing. But at the same time, the Genghis Khan spirit exists, so it's these two spirits. And so what do? Do you sacrifice one or the other? No. That's the fundamental thing Jesus teaches us, I feel, and especially from reading Jung's texts. These two things are cannot be reconciled, which is why they form a cross. That's the meaning of the cross, I feel. A cross is literally a fundamental incongruence in your being, which is why you have to pick it up, and which is why, in a sense, you have to be crucified at the end of it. And that sounds terrible. It is terrible. But firstly, we already go through that anyway, whether we like it or not. And second of all, if we carry that inconsistency with dignity and with resilience as Jesus did, then the reward is eternal. We all love Jesus. Come on, we all love Jesus. If you know the story. Anyway, that was all I wanted to say, which is, yeah, the meaning of the cross and what it means in the modern day, I would say. And with that, I will allay any future statements within this video. Goodbye.